You're mayor of the city of Jamestown during what time period?
I was the first elected in 1969, took office on January 1st, 1970.
And now that you're a relatively new mayor, and you've, of course, been a lawyer before that and a participant in various service clubs, you were a member of Kiwanis, weren't you?
I was, yes. I was in the Kiwanis Club before I became mayor, and as much as possible continued to go while I was mayor.
Really, your first term, your first year of mayor, you get a letter, presumably, or some contact from somebody regarding this thing called Earth Day.
Yes.
Do you remember much about that?
No, I don't. It's really funny. I know that I was a signer of the original Earth Day proclamation, but how it came across my desk or whether somebody called me or something, I just don't recall. But I thought, well, this is a good idea, and we ought to proclaim Earth Day. I thought about it just for the city of Jamestown, but as you know, it became international. In fact, U Thant, the Secretary General of the United Nations, was one of the original signers of that proclamation.
So you sign it. Was there any obligations for the city to do anything or any encouragement?
Not really. We were pretty well recognized under Russ Dietrich's leadership as having an outstanding parks program, and we were designated a tree city because we had so many trees. Unfortunately, we lost some of them due to blight, but we were, I think, reasonably environmentally conscious. A lot more could be done for sure, but I think Jamestown was probably singled out as a small city that had a pretty good record on environmental kinds of responsibilities.
There are pictures that appear in the Post-Journal, such as this, which Kiwanis. And by the way, I want to see if you have one of those original hats. They're outstanding.
I do not. I have a bunch of hats that I've been given over the years, including a fireman's cap and everything, but I don't have the Kiwanis cap.
Really. But you clearly there was an opportunity from a city perspective as well as a fraternal perspective to do something. Do you remember much about the planning or how that sort of came together? This would have been in April of 1970.
The Kiwanis Club was particularly interested in youth activities, and we thought that it was important that young people be acquainted with the need to clean up and provide better policies with regard to air, water, pollution. When I recall very clearly, we lived on Forest Avenue, and the Board of Public Utilities electric plant would give off smoke, and really you couldn't hang your wash out. But that was considered normal up to that point in time, and we did. While I was mayor, in that 6-year period, we did clean up the emissions quite a bit, so that you at least didn't get smoke on the near south side. But there were a lot of things that needed to be done. I don't know who it was that came up with the idea of dramatizing how much pollution was occurring in Jamestown by getting a whole bunch of dirt dumped on Cherry Street, but it was a dramatic demonstration of the challenge that we faced.
The sign says 30 tons fall out on 1 square mile. 9 piles this size on entire city every 30 days. And that was the evidence that they showed there. Did you recall participating in school activities? It looked like there was a parade. Other things that you as a city mayor were involved in?
Well, later, 2 or 3 years later, I guess, Jamestown was named an All-America City, and we had a huge parade. But I don't recall a specific parade for the environment. I mean, maybe there was one, but I just don't recall it. Ted Smith was a great environmentalist. Ted was on the county legislature, or probably was the Board of Supervisors at that time. And he was really the person most responsible for creating sewer districts around Chautauqua Lake. So he was appropriate in terms of an advocate for the environment.
As time went on, the next year, the following year, did you get a sense of what it was that was transpiring? Something inspired by Senator Gaylord Nelson way back 1968, 69, led to Earth Day. This was more than just a one-off program?
Oh, yes, definitely. Senator Nelson was the originator, I think, of the idea of Earth Day, and it has become certainly an annual commemoration. But that led to the Clean Air and Clean Water Act, which really were authored by Senator Muskie from Maine, a Democrat, and Senator Sherman Cooper, a Republican from Kentucky. They were the two co-sponsors of both the Clean Air and Clean Water Act. And I happen to be friends with Senator Muskie's person who was chief of staff at that time, and have heard, and a good friend of the chief of staff to Senator Cooper as well. And they said that Earth Day really did provide an impetus so that there was a widespread recognition in the Congress at the time of the necessity of cleaning up air and water.
Okay, Senator Nelson, again, just briefly reading it, provided a federal proclamation concerning this Earth Day.
Right.
What is a federal proclamation? Is it some senator saying, reading it, or is it has a force of any sort of statute, law?
No, it does. I don't think it has the force of law, but it's quite unusual for a proclamation to come from the Senate or the House of Representatives. Generally, proclamations are presidential, and generally the Senate wouldn't do something like that. So the fact that it was unusual, I think, led to greater impetus towards environmental cleanup.
As an original signature, do you have a sense of pride about what has transpired the following 40 plus years?
Yes, I think we've made great strides. Now, you're never done with the project. We still have parts of Chautauqua Lake to sewer and clean up. We have air pollution improvements that we can make, but definitely we have made great progress in Jamestown, in Chautauqua County, and across America. You just look at the drama. The drama at that time was both Cleveland and Pittsburgh. Cleveland because the Cuyahoga River caught on fire, and Pittsburgh because of the pollution in the air, largely caused by the steel plants there. And both of those places have cleaned up, are environmentally conscious, and have made great improvements. I think we have here too in Jamestown. Be it therefore resolved that each signer of the People Proclamation will seek to help charge man's terrible course toward catastrophe by searching for activities and projects which, in the best judgment of the individual signer, will peacefully end the scourge of war, provide an opportunity for children of the disinherited poor to obtain their rightful inheritance on earth, and redirect energies of industry and society from progress through products to process through harmony with Earth's natural systems and improving the quality of life. It goes on to say each signer will, his own conscience being his judge, measure his commitment by how much time and money he gives to these purposes, and realizing the great urgency of the task, will give freely of his time and money to activities and programs he believes will best further these earth renewal purposes. At least 9% of the world's present income is going to activities that support war and spread pollution. 10% can tip the balance for a healthy, peaceful progress. Furthermore, each signer will support and observe Earth Day on March 21st, 1971, with reflection and actions that will encourage new respect for Earth with its great potentials for fulfilling man's highest dream, and on its way, on this day, will join at 1900 Universal Time in a global Earth Hour, a silent hour for peace. That's interesting. I had forgotten the...
Why don't you have him sign it on the film too? Here.
I had forgotten the peace part of it. What's interesting about that is that we're down here adjacent to Jamestown Community College, and at the time, of course, the Vietnam War was a great controversy, and the students marched and protested, and I got up and said, look, a mayor doesn't have much to do with whether we have war in Vietnam or not, but Earth Day is important, and here's something local that you can do something about. And I got lustily booed. They didn't buy it. They thought that I ought to join in the anti-Vietnam protest.